So welcome everyone to April's Coordinator Community Call. My name is Abby Greer, and these calls are being provided through the Time for All Time Bank, which is a group of coordinators seeking to share how-to information, ideas, and resources about time banking while honoring and rewarding the hours spent working on behalf of the time bank movement. So if you are not a member of the Time for All Time Bank, we want you. We want you to come into the time bank. We want to get to know you. We want to have some more events, some fun events, possibly. We've got this wonderful Zoom, so please make an account at timeforall.timebanks.org, where you could actually reward yourself today. You could pay yourself for coming on this call, or you could say, hey, I learned so much, I'm going to reward the Time for All Time Bank for hosting that call. Your choice. So we do also want to give a big shout out to timebanks.org, who basically in the start of this year has breathed new life into these calls by sponsoring them going forward. We are using Tina Maria Admit. We're using their Zoom, and they are rewarding me financially to help make these calls happen. And I honestly think after a few years of volunteerism, before we got the Time for All Time Bank really going, that we know that it takes sometimes a little more to get stuff going. So timebanks.org, I'm just very grateful. And I'm looking forward to many, many, many more calls to create this coordinator community. So again, we are recording the call. So if you are going to share any personal information, please be aware of that. I am sharing this call to people on this call. We'll talk about it later. I want to give you a recording of the call in case you want to re-listen to it. But also on the Time Bank Coordinators Facebook page, because there are 800, something like 800 coordinators on that Facebook page, which is a beautiful way to have community. Of course, we know not everybody's on Facebook, but I put the recording there. It's a private group, so the public cannot see that recording. But just so you know, if you're going to put anything private, that this is being recorded and shared. One thing that Krista, our executive director, was on earlier, and she wanted to make sure that we share with you that we did in 2021 a survey of time bankers, and I don't have the actual details, how many participants in the survey. It was a really nice number, but we got a wonderful response, and she has made a beautiful PDF document. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat that you will be able to share. And if for some reason you're unable to download it, we're going to have it on the timebanks.org website. It's an incredible way for you to promote time banking in your community. It's an impact report. It's just colorful and fun. You know, 95% used their skill to do something for others. 99% feel time bank promotes an equal society. Just beautiful quotes like that you could share on all of your sites and share with your members, which I'm sure in this smaller group, I think a lot of you gave this to your members and they were a part of that survey. So I did put that the link there in the chat. You can copy it, take a look at it later, save it, print it, whatever you need to do. It's for everyone. Thank you for those who participated. Okay, so today we're going to have an open, informal discussion. There's no right or wrong answers. We just want to be a community, a family together here where we can share and network with each other, with our experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, doesn't matter. Bring it, bring it. We want to hear it. And we're going to be talking about teams, finding teams to help you move your time bank. We were laughing a little earlier because they've been called kitchen cabinets, and we're all wondering who calls a team a kitchen cabinet. We're going to have to look that up. Jessica, is your link working for others? Okay, it may not quite be working, but by the end of this call, we'll make sure that you get it, because I know Eric had a hard time getting that link as well. And again, she just did this, so it may not be in the proper sharing thing. Sorry about that, Jessica. So teams, boards. I actually was thinking, oh, but what if we run off into this conversation about governing boards? okay, that's okay if we need to talk about that, but my initial thought, and I think Carrie's as well, is we're actually just talking about the action committees, the people that want to get out there and really help you do events. Do you have a little team of people that are going to help you do events? Do you have a little team of people that work on your membership? Your members that are stagnant, new members, orientations, all of these can take teams if we're smart and we can find the people so that you don't have to do the work. And that's where I'm kind of hoping this conversation will go. If it needs to squat around in the governing boards, I think that's another great topic. Very, very important. But for now, we're kind of thinking about those teams of people that are willing to meet outside of the governing board and say, hey, how do we have a party? How do we have a plant swap? How do we have a game night? Okay, you don't have to do all that work. So before we begin with that topic, we'd like to go around the room and have you introduce yourself. We're going to have you tell us the name of your time bank and where you're located, as it's really nice to hear where everyone is in the country and in the globe. And just maybe answer this question. Do you have teams or committees? When I was talking about it, I saw some of you going, no, I don't have that. So it just would be nice to know, no, I don't have that. I'm looking to build that. Or you're going to say, why, yes, I've got 5 committees. Okay, then you can be the star of the show. But so we're going to go around the room, and I usually like to just do this off the chat. So please forgive me if I miss someone. And let me start out first by introducing Samantha, because she is giving plasma right now and she can't talk. And she said, would we please introduce her? So first off the bat is Samantha Sargent from Pikes Peak Region Time Bank's headquarters in Colorado Springs. And she may have 2 other coordinators on today. I hope you will introduce yourself. Samantha just jumped into this time banking world and we love her. She's perky and excited, and it's just that breath of fresh air that I felt I needed. I was like, Samantha, I love you. I go to bed and I say, Samantha, thank you for being here and being you. So, and giving blood. That's a wonderful thing. So if you don't mind, I'm not looking at the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and go through, I'm going to go down the attendees list. Hopefully I won't miss anybody. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with Eric. You have to unmute.
Yep. Hello, I'm Eric Bachman. I'm in central Vermont and part of the Onion River Exchange Time Bank. I also work for timebanks.org, doing technical support for the software. And our time bank started in 2008, and the COVID hit us very hard. Several years before COVID, we were over 800 members. Now we're down to 176. And if I look at the activity, it might be at the most a handful. And I'm just wondering, we did have a member leadership group, about 12 people who were doing all sorts of tasks. We had a couple staff people. We had a lot of people who were doing it for time credits, a few doing it for money. That the funds petered out, the support petered out, especially, well, even started before COVID, but COVID really put us into sort of a dormancy where just a few people are doing anything. And with only 3 people on the board who, and I just came to the board after so in the middle of COVID, we are wondering exactly this question: how do we increase the involvement? How do we get more excitement out there? How do we get more people involved in doing some of the daily tasks? Because we don't have the funding for any staff person. And so I'm really excited in people's ideas. Because we don't have anybody with a lot of time, it seems that a lot of tasks pile up and we don't know how to get them done, even simple tasks. And we feel we're sort of running behind things. It's sort of like, are we restarting the time bank? I mean, I wasn't there at the very beginning, so I don't know how much work that was, but it seems like it's quite a lot. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Thank you so much, Eric. I think you actually bring such a valuable amount of wisdom to this because you've seen your time bank go through these different stages, and it might be interesting to hear what was working then with the people that were working as well as addressing your new question, how do we find new people, which I figured this was going to be a big question for us today, is how do we find champions, get them excited and want them to earn time credits instead of a financial USD to help your time bank thrive. So that's a great introduction. Thank you, BJ. BJ, Eric. Okay, sorry. Well, next up is Robert. If you would unmute yourself.
Hi, Abby. It's been a long time. Too long. I'm Robert McGinnis. I'm with Tampa Bay Time Bank, and I live in Lutz, Florida. I've been a member about 10 years. And yes, we have a very formal, structured business class action plan with committees. But do we know how to do it? No, you're better off talking to BJ in St. Pete. She actually does it. And one thing I'd like to add on something you said, Abby, about counting our hours. We need to do a lot better job, especially with us who've been with Time Bank for a while. It's not important to us because we realize it's, we're doing it because, well, you know what the deal is. But we should be keeping track of those hours. I mean, even exchanges of information like this for educational, so for social purposes, we need those statistics. And the software we got is just awesome database, and it's a closed database, so it's private and secured network, but it's an awesome database that we're not using. So I came to learn from people like Abby and BJ. I'm assuming that survey placard that you sent us, that you put up on, I assume that's okay to share with the public.
You bet.
Your timing was awesome. One of our time money raising events is not going to raise a whole lot of money for us, but it will raise a lot of money for our partners. We're helping the refugee community here hold a fashion show in May. So I was looking for well done graphic information that I wouldn't be ashamed of the TV camera coming by our desk and showing, my crayons. So thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing that placard in the Tampa Bay Times.
You are very welcome. And that was really the purpose for the survey. It doesn't look very scientific, but it really is a good survey. And it really does help the public see all the benefits that all of our members answered that.
Yeah.
They're beautiful statistics. So I'm glad that can help you. And you could print it off on a glossy thing. You can do whatever you want with it.
And since we're one of the sponsors of it, we'll share the press related to it, but all our press is going to focus on Time Bank, and somewhat of the relationship and why community is so important to us and why refugees are so important to us, because they have a wealth of knowledge that we don't have, and they have a perspective that we don't have. And I was just thinking about this just yesterday. There was a report on it, how people built the government out of $1.6 billion by cheating the economic, houses in Miami reporting to be a farm with 10 employees. And then they go out and buy Lamborghinis. Our refugee women would never do that. They have a social consciousness of that they're a valued member of the community, and they're not going to take anything away from anybody to go buy a Lamborghini. So we need people like that in our community. And that's what time banking recognized this a long time ago. Edgar recognized this when he first started it, that the health of a society starts in the community. When this community starts unraveling, we do some stupid things as a society. So they're an important part of the community, and man, they have a perspective on life that we will never have, and we get as much out of that relationship as they do. But that's what time banking's about.
Thank you so much, Robert. You're bringing up on, I'm thinking, oh, we could have a topic on refugees and time banking. Like such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I see Carrie nodding her head and Mashi in New York. She'd probably love to be a part of that. But thank you so much for that introduction. Alice, I know you're cooking. Would you be able to say hello or?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not so involved that I can't say hello. Hi. Yeah. My name is Alice. I'm use she, her pronouns. I'm with Unity in Our Community Time Bank and also the Michigan Alliance of Time Banks. And we are just trying to implement some action teams, both with our local time bank and with the Michigan Alliance.
Excellent. Thank you, Alice. And I have a feeling you too have had a lot of experience with smaller teams working in your time bank. So I'll be excited to hear some of your responses to folks who are looking for that. Next up is BJ.
Got to find the unmute button. My name is BJ, founder of St. Pete Time Bank. Started in 2016 with a girlfriend and a roommate in my kitchen. Ha! Go figure. And it's graduated from that to, it was just like, yeah, I'll help out. Yeah, I'll help out. And we called ourselves a board, even though we weren't recognized by the state until we got a grant from the Foundation for Healthy St. Petersburg and formalized. And now we're recognized by the state and we have a board of directors. I'm not crazy about the hierarchical status of it because time banks are not hierarchical. And I know with my involvement in Tampa Bay Time Bank, Marie Nelson, the late Dr. Marie Nelson, it would always be like, well, we don't have an agenda, we have a map. We kind of know where we're going, you know what I mean? And from somebody who came from hierarchical corporate structures, it drove me crazy. But now that I've been around time making quite a bit and I hear all these different things like, and they're more governance things like sociocracy and holacracy and stuff like that, cooperative ways of doing things. That's what we really are. We've got this stuff that the state says we have to have, but we all sit down and talk about stuff until we agree on it and then go from there. So. But it's the board that does the work in St. Pete Time Bank.
Thank you, BJ. I know that very well. Same with Kent Community Time Bank. The governing board was the committee to run the time bank. Not sure that was perfect, but I appreciate that. Donna, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Donna from Brattleboro Time Trade in Brattleboro, Vermont. And we do not really have teams. We very, very much need more member involvement. The board does pretty much, not entirely, but pretty much everything. And I hope it's okay to say this. We're looking for someone who would like to speak about more member involvement at our upcoming annual meeting. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Donna. Giovanni. I saw Giovanni.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
I'm Giovanni, and I'm from the Mesilla Valley Time Bank. I am actually a Vista member, so I'm the coordinator for this short year, but already I know that we have a steering committee that essentially helps us get along, and I'm a part of a 3-member team now of just helping the Mesilla Valley Time Bank with our initiatives and kind of get us going. And I want to make sure that this year I leave something that perpetuates itself inevitably.
Thank you. Amazing Vista worker. We've heard a lot about Vista workers over the years being a great help to time bank. So I'm really glad you're here. It means a lot that you want to learn more. And you also brought up the word steering committee. What does that mean? I don't know. Steer everybody. Carrie's laughing because we're like, okay, we need to have a call about this. So thank you for that introduction. Jed, we're up to you, buddy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having these meetings. I'm not a time bank coordinator, but I'm based in Atlanta, and I'm a strategic consultant to nonprofits and foundations now. But prior to that, over a 3+ year period, I was running a nonprofit initiative, and we had a model that we called the Fellows model, which was a cohort of roughly 20 leaders each year. And I think that that model actually could work really well for time banks. I think it works really well when you have a very small staff or no staff. When you have, let's say, 1 or 2 quote unquote full-time, in this case, time bank coordinators. It's a little bit, I call them kind of super volunteers now. That's, they're not board members, they're not staff, they're not coordinators, they're kind of in between the broader community members you may have participating in your time bank and your 1 to 2 to 3 quote unquote full-time leaders. With our model, it was kind of 3 components to it. One was leadership development for what the fellows themselves. The second was kind of outreach and engagement, one-on-one coffees in our case, which may have to be virtual for some of you, at least still during the pandemic. And then the third part was helping lead or co-lead programs or events. So anyway, I'm happy to share more about it, but I do think that could be helpful for any number of you. And I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Jed. Again, you bring up so many more interesting pieces to all of this, that the time banking team is really not different than the other team of people that want to come together and move something forward. So it's like we have a double thing. We have to teach people about time banking and then find a team that wants to go teach people about time banking. So there's so much value in what you just said, Jed. I hope that you'll chime in as we ask more questions during the next hour. Jessica?
Hi, everyone. I'm from Time Bank by Health First, and we're located in New York. So we run a little differently because we were acquired by an insurance company, a nonprofit insurance company. And so luckily we get a lot of support. We do have a small team of Time Bank staff, which Abby said, Mashi. There's Mashi, who's our director, who's been time banking for over 30 years, and myself and my counterpart, and we have 1 more member. So we are lucky that we have some designated resources, but yet team building is still difficult outside of our small staff. Just finding people. I'm actually newer to Time Bank. I've been here about 8 months. So just finding people that are willing to lead the charge on certain things is still a struggle, even with that. So I've slowly been identifying those people and their skill set and maybe their expertise and how they can kind of help the team. Luckily, we've done a lot of things virtual. We've had a lot of success with our virtual programming throughout COVID. Again, because we have the resources, we have a designated staff and we have, Zooms and all that stuff. But so Zoom and classes have been really helpful for us, and our leaders, it's more convenient for them to participate and lead things rather than go somewhere and do it. So if anyone has any questions about Zooms and setting that up and classes and virtual classes, we've had great success with that, I have to say. But yeah, again, just finding leaders to really take take charge of something, and it's still a struggle for me. So looking for ideas always. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Again, more information, having a paid staff, what does that get you exactly, and what more is needed even beyond that? So it's great to have your perspective as well. Carrie, the reason for the topic of the call.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see all of you and be in community again. I'm Carrie Bachman, she, her, hers, and I am Zooming in from Southern New Mexico, USA. We are the Mesilla Valley Time Bank, and I'm so glad Gio's here with us today as well. This was a topic that is really top of mind for me because we have an interesting structure. I think some of you know, our organization is not itself a nonprofit, but we have 4 main initiatives, and the Time Bank is just one of those 4. And so we have paid staff, but literally we are split between 4 programs. And at the moment we have 3 paid staff to do that work. So it's, in a way it's great, and in a way it's also harder. But I will say, I think definitely the synergy that happens between the programs is really helpful. And we do get volunteers and organizations engaged because of the other work we're doing. So I would say that when it's, the Time Bank is not just standing alone, I think it really helps to get involvement from folks who may not see the Time Bank angle as the way they want to get engaged. The other thing I will say is we, as Giovanni alluded to, have what we call a steering committee for the Time Bank, because we actually have a steering committee, which is sort of like a board for our whole organization. But we are scrapping the Time Bank steering committee, and after having conversations over the last month with existing members and others who wanted to be on the committee, people are quite excited about us getting rid of it. I think we were all frustrated by it, honestly. And so we're going to action teams, and people's gifts will be able to be expressed in ways that they want to express them. And instead of having a 2-year term where people are elected, people will actually, at least we're thinking, sign up for maybe a 3 or 6 month period. And they'll still have sort of an agreement that they agree to in terms of their commitment, but it will be much shorter term. And I think we'll be able to engage people where they are and not expect everybody to be able to read, or everybody to be able to speak English, or everybody be able to be on a Zoom, which are all things that are challenging if you're running sort of a more traditional steering committee. So I just really think like it's a way to engage folks where they are, and from the gifts that they are presenting. And then from that engagement, people can grow in ways that they feel matter to them, rather than us making them feel bad that they don't know how to use the software, for example, to report their hours. Like that shaming, I just think does not have a place in time banking. So thanks, everybody. So glad to hear you all and your ideas today.
So Carrie, I'm feeling like in 6 months, we should come back and visit this again, because honestly, you know, I've been time banking with my time bank since 2010, and I've yet to ever hear anyone say, let's create an action team that only has a 3-month time period. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't I think of that? Like, how beautiful. Oh, I'm just going to sign up for 3 months, and my job is going to be to make sure we have a time bank birthday party and get a committee. Like, how easy is that? When I say, oh, I got to do this for 2 years. I don't know. So I love what you're doing, and I really think we're going to learn a lot from your experience. Thank you for sharing. Nuzha, are you still with us? Yes, good. Would you be able to? Yes, good.
Yes. Kira, sorry, my camera's not working, but I'm also fasting because it's Ramadan. And so I'm kind of cuddled in my bed. So I'm from the Wellington Time Bank in New Zealand, for those of you who I haven't met before. We have 1 paid staff member, me, and a whole bunch of volunteers that I am eternally grateful for, because I don't know how I would do the work that I do if I didn't have the volunteers. And so we have volunteers for very specific things like member processing stuff, for social media stuff. And it kind of works really great that way, because a lot of the volunteers we get are often looking to develop a certain skill set so that they can go out and like get jobs in specific areas that they're really interested in. So like moms that are trying to come back into the workforce that have sort of had a career change, or students that are doing communications and media at university and then wanting like background volunteer experience to put on their CV. So that's been really good for us and has worked really well. And we also have a steering committee similar to Carrie and Giovanni, I think. And they kind of help with like governance and strategy stuff. I presented when I saw you guys from the last meeting, I presented to them this idea of an action team. Some of them seemed a little bit more on board. We're currently trying to develop some strategy around re-engagement because we're having similar problems, I think, to Eric post-COVID. And we're trying to figure out, like, doing phone surveys to figure out what is like how COVID's impacted people and what we can kind of do about that. So hopefully I'll have something to share because we're having a WHOI's feedback session where we're kind of going to come together and collate all our answers. And I did that this morning, so I kind of have an idea of what people have been saying. And kind of figure out strategy from that point onwards. But yeah, that's kind of our structure. And there are a few people in steering committee when I presented the action team idea that did seem a little bit more inclined to kind of use their specific skill set. So I'm really here to hear more about it so that I can take more of it and my understanding of it to the steering committee again and try and get more people involved. I just think the time bank mission is so big and there are so many different aspects to it that I would always like to branch into, but I don't always feel like I have the capacity or the time to do all of the brainstorming and all of the thinking that kind of requires you to do when you're in these action teams. Yeah. So so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear where you're coming from and where your steering committee is, and maybe they can grab onto this action team idea. Everything everybody is saying, it's just all so time banking. Like, how do we find the people to do the jobs that they love doing, right? That's just one thing that you said that made me think of it's such a time bank way of thinking, but if we could find that, we'd be golden, right? So Sarah Brake, are you here?
Yes, Our Exchange Portland. We currently have, I'd say, 1.5 teams. One of them is called the Farm to Pantry Network, which we've had going for 3 years. It started as a group of members who do gleaning on farms and some transportation to food programs. We have 2 members now who are a team who are working on greatly expanding it, developing connections with farmers, working on food equity, racial equity in farming, and sort of connecting farmers with the community, and it's very exciting. They just are like doing research and outreach right now. And then I say a half because we've been working for about a year on getting a kitchen cabinet going. We think we're going to change the name. The purpose is a group to plan activities. It's been really difficult finding a way to get them all together. One of them doesn't use Zoom. We tried to do an in-person meeting last week and the weather was outside and the weather was just atrocious and somebody's car broke down. Anyway, we're working on that. And then we're actively trying to create more teams. We do have a board, and a couple of members of the board created a survey, which we distributed to our members last week, and we gave them a week to fill it out. We'll remind them. But we're asking for their ideas about projects that Our Exchange members could work on together. And we're having our annual meeting on April 27th. So we're going to gather their ideas and the sort of most important or promising ones, and then have members self-select into little teams and do some brainstorming about how that team could get started and who they might need on that team, whether it's an Our Exchange member that they can invite, or whether it's a non-member they could invite to Our Exchange to work with them on that project.
Wow, thank you, Sarah. That's amazing to me because, again, I'm just learning so much. I think so linear. I just think like, okay, we need events and we need membership and we need fundraising and we need social media. And instead you're saying, why not get the idea and get the projects and create the teams after we have the inspiration of the project? That's incredible. I just love that idea. I think we could all think about it in a little different light, especially me. Thank you for sharing, Sarah. Tina Maria.
You're welcome.
You're up, Tina Maria.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Because I'm in my car. Okay. Hi, I'm Tina from Colorado Springs, Colorado Time Banks with Samantha, who is, like you said, currently donating. And so I'll speak, on her topic a little bit, for example, what you guys are talking about, because essentially how I met her and that's how I got involved. She found me because of a post on social media that I had done. And so I think one of the tricks she's using, and I don't think she'll mind me sharing, is that she is engaging on social media, finding people that are already looking community, like interested, trying to plug into the community like I was on my post, and then saying, hey, why don't we get together? And this is something I'm already doing. And because the cool thing about time banks is the automation, is the virtual piece and the online piece and the website. So that's something, and I've watched her do all the hard work of trying to connect people that way. And it is hard work, like you guys say, because you essentially have to find people that are passionate about XYZ and then get it all to synchronize, which I think is hard even in a corporation where you're getting paid. So of course, when you start talking about volunteering your time, it's tricky. But to sort of chime in on like what Carrie was saying, like how they were saying how she says that they don't stand alone. And that's something because Samantha also has a private business. So I've already seen coming into this, just like Carrie was saying, when you have other things going on, other ways that funding can come in, other reasons you're meeting, other things you can plug in, the time banks can really help. I mean, that's helped us so far. And so I'm really interested to hear what everyone has to say as well. I mean, that's something we've tried to do. And yeah, it's not easy. No matter what, it's not easy. A lot of moving pieces, people have lives, fitting it all together. And it makes it fun. And I also like and I'm sorry, I don't pronounce well. I'm going to say your name started with N because I don't want to say it wrong. And you're in New Zealand and you were talking about tapping into people who are trying to get back in the workforce and all that. I love that. So, and that's kind of me. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 4 years. So I tell Samantha all the time, like, just use me because I'm going to put all this on a resume when I go back into the workforce. Everything I'm doing, to me, learning is invaluable. So obviously when you can find people that see it that way, it's like constant, I'm a learner. I'll be a learner for the rest of my life and I love it. So, but yeah, finding those pieces, finding those people, getting it to connect, that is no small feat. So my hat is off to all you guys who are here and all your initiatives and all your hard work, because it's not easy. And I'm going to be excited to see all the ideas and all the synergy that comes from the coordinator calls like today.
Oh, Tina Maria, that's so great. Like, okay, so Samantha basically found a champion and her name is Tina Maria, right? And now Tina Maria is on board. So it's just a perfect example of how do we find champions. So we need to write that down. She found her on a social media post. She's paying attention. She's saying, who wants to be involved in the community and do good things? Yeah, Samantha says, yes, she's a gem. I can see that. So now Tina Maria is on board. Like, this is a perfect example. So one thing we know, we can possibly find some champions on social media, because oftentimes the people who want to do the good things in the world are talking about it, right? I love that. I just love that. Thank you. He said a lot of other things too, but we've got 3 more to introduce, and then what's 4:43? I love the introductions. Okay, Vilvi.
Hi, Vilvi Vanek, Columbus, Ohio, Karen Share Time Bank. Many of you know Michael Greenman. He was the founder a couple of years before the pandemic. We were moving to a member-led time bank, getting away from just the founders. I said, okay, I'll step in for a 2-year presidential role. We drew up a board with committees and had all these ideas of everything. And then fast forward to now, almost the entire board has quit. I get periodically new people joining that are all gung ho and have ideas, and I'm all fired up and say, great, let's run with this. And they say, oh no, I'm too busy to do anything. I just wanted to give you the ideas. Right now, I'm really hoping that the rest of you have some great ideas, because I've got all these wonderful ideas and people are like, oh, we could help this community and that, the refugees and the immigrants and the pandemic has shown faults in our society, and oh, we've got an urban garden and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, yes, a million times, yes, let's run with it. And I turn around and no one's behind me. So I'm gonna shut up now because I can't wait to hear what all of you have to say.
Vilvi, you are not alone. I see a lot of people nodding their heads. We've got a lot of idea people, and that's a very common thing. I've got a million ideas. Of course, we want to hear your ideas, but this topic today is we want action. We want to make those ideas come to fruition. And so we have two more, but one thing I do want to say, just really quick, because I might forget, and it's like we only have half an hour left on the call, but I think sometimes when we look within our time bank, you can look hopefully in your data and find out who your super users are. Find out who is really jamming on time bank and talking about it and lives it and breathes it and is recording their hours. I think sometimes our champions are hidden inside of our time bank. That's just one thing I wanted to mention to you, because it just inspired me with what you were saying about idea people. Anna Dunford, thank you. I'm so glad you're here and you could get on.
Kia ora, Abby. Kia ora koutou. Greetings to you all. My internet connection's a bit dodgy, so if I cut out, I'll put it in my chat. We have a large team of paid coordinators, but although we've got 62 hours between us a week, we've got 10 positions out of that. So it's not very many each, but we've done that so that we cover a huge geographical area here in Taitokoro, the far north of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And we decided it was better to have more local coordinators with fewer hours than a few with a huge area to cover, so that we were really focusing on people networking within their own communities. And because our local coordinators only have 5 or 6 hours each a week, we've shifted to partnering up, and also because of the COVID stuffing everything up and ending up organizing the same event 3 times, which is a really bad use of hours. We've shifted to working a lot more collaboratively with our organizational members and promoting their events to our members and co-hosting, so that our coordinators aren't doing it on their own. And also, so sometimes all they have to do is tell the members about it. And these provide opportunities for our members to meet, and that from that naturally flows other exchanges. But we have 1 or 2 members who do some pretty good support for time credits as well, which is great. And we're looking at ways of piggybacking some of our sort of sister organizations around here to tap into their communications tools and things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, I know these introductions have basically taken a lot of our call, but I'm hearing so many little gems in all of what you're saying. Like she's talking about organizational members. That sounds a lot like people who are dedicated towards like the projects that Carrie's talking about, and say, let's get people on board with projects. Our organizational members are usually doing projects. So I think that's a really brilliant gem. Thank you for sharing, Anna, and welcome. And last but not least is Nigel. Would you be willing to introduce yourself, Nigel? You'll just have to unmute. Or have you stepped away? Okay, Well, Nigel, if you come back, you could raise your hand or just unmute yourself. We'd love to hear a little bit about your time bank. So we have, let's see, 15, we have about 25 minutes. Although there have been, you should see I'm so old fashioned. I'm like scribbling things down. I actually would like to start the last 20 minutes with anyone here who would be willing to volunteer a small story or situation where you had a team of people that wasn't you. Okay, so I think that oftentimes I know when I ran my time bank, I was on a lot of committees. And I also made the schedule and made sure everybody got together and made sure we took notes and made sure we did our hours. And that was me. And this is not a good succession plan. So is there anybody here that would be willing to share for a few minutes a story about your time bank where you had a small team of people, and I think 2 or 3 people, not one, maybe 2 would work. I think 2 can accomplish a lot. That was successful. And then maybe we can ask you a couple questions. How did you find those people? What made it work? Where are they now? Would anybody be willing to raise their hand and share a successful, I found a team story? We know Samantha found Tina Maria, which is a champion. I think there's going to be some more good stories there. Alice, yes. Please
It's a
share.
very quick story and it predates me, but there is a woman and a couple of her friends who host family game night for the time bank every week. It's been going on for 8 years, or not every week, every month. It's been going on for, I think, 8 years, because it's been going on as long as since her oldest child was a little baby. And it happens basically entirely without my help. I put it in the newsletter every week. That's it.
So does anybody have a question for Alice? I know she's cooking, but how did you find out that this person was doing game night?
Again, it happened before me, but the story, before I was involved with the time bank, but the story is that she was interested in it, or she knew Jenny, who was a very active part of our time bank. And Jenny was like, you should be a part of the time bank. It's your kind of thing. And she was like, well, I don't know what I would do. I have this new little baby. At the time, her husband traveled for work a lot. You know, and Jenny was like, well, what do you need? And she was like, I need people to come over to my house and play games with me while my little baby sleeps. Like she's an extrovert, and she's like, it's killing me that I can't go anywhere in the evening because I have this little baby. And so Jenny said, great, you're hosting game night. And again, this kid is now like in 4th grade. So yeah.
Amazing. Does anybody have a question for Alice? I'm thinking of a few, but I don't want to take up your valuable time for a question. Like, honestly, I think when I was the coordinator of our time bank, I was so business-like, like too much. And I would take that game night and I would say, well, we want to know how many people came, and we want to know if they had fun, and we want to know what we need to do to make it bigger and better and bigger and better. And clearly, I don't think that's exactly the right way to think about it. But I love this organic idea. It also comes back to Carrie's idea, or the organizational people who just have a project, something that they love doing. So we know that that works. I think that's one thing we can take away from this call. If you know somebody in your time bank that has a book club, or loves to play cards, or loves to clean up the river, you know, that a little creative thinking says, hey, could we make that a time bank event? Which is great. I need to train myself, because I just think so big in like a business plan that I think too big. So I do want to read what Samantha said. She says, Halloween 2019, she had 10 volunteers for an event, super cool. They served 5,000 people in 6 hours. So maybe a dinner. I offer to greet for existing events and introduce people to time banks, usually free events, and we offer time credits for attendance. So she loves game nights, quality attendees, and okay. So that's like the organic, you have a member who has a thing. Does anybody else have a team? Do you have a membership team? Eric?
There, I got it unmuted. Sorry. In the Unmember Exchange, we had for a number of years a group we called Member Leaders. And it was people who were interested in encouraging, supporting, you could call them champions of the time bank. And we talked about what roles they could do. And we divided up certain roles. Like one person had the role of contacting every new member 4 weeks after they became a member, after they were at the orientation, to check in with them to see if they need any help. We had, I think, 12 different roles that people were doing. And it was, I found it very exciting that we distributed some of the work around like that. And it went pretty well for several years, and then it slowly disappeared. And I like the fact that we decided on our own roles. I like the fact that we came together once every month, or was it 2 months, to share with each other. And why did it not function forever? I think there were two reasons. One was that it was individuals doing a task. It wasn't teams responsible for a task. And so when an individual got too busy, or didn't have the time, or got sick, or whatever, that task lagged. And it was more or less organized by our paid coordinators. And so it depended upon the coordinators. It wasn't a teamwork in, there was collaboration, but it wasn't organized. The coordinator, the paid coordinator, the staff person made the agenda and things like that. Now in our situation, we're looking, how can we improve and have better teamwork? And I like the ideas that I heard from many time banks about setting up working groups. And I recently, with this in mind, took part in a introduction to something called Sociocracy, which is billed as the operating system of the new economy. And it's a very decentralized decision-making structure. And I really wanted to learn more about it. But what they do is, in any organization that wants to use that principle, they don't have a director, or they don't have somebody that leads the organization like that. They have groups of people who are responsible, and in the area that they're responsible for, they can make the decisions, as long as it doesn't impinge on another area. And they call each area a circle. So you might have a circle doing, I don't know what, game evenings. Or you might have a circle doing reaching out to members. And if they need money, that has to do within the circle that's responsible for the finances. So each circle can autonomously make the decisions for their responsibility area. And I like that idea very much. There's also a circle where all the representatives from these circles get together and share with each other. And one circle is the mission circle. They're responsible to keep everything working towards the mission. And I think this is a fascinating idea that helps us. I mean, in time banking, for us, trust is an important thing, which is different from the dollar society, where it's just people are there to make a buck, and they buy stuff and sell it a little bit more so that they can make money off the selling of it and the manufacture of it or whatever. Time banking, we're more based on trust. And that's a very important factor, I think. Well, also one that draws me to time banking. So I really am looking into how can this idea help us in our decision-making structure, so that we're not dependent upon a board or a director or the staff person to do it all. And I'm really interested in, connecting with and talking with other people who want to explore some ideas in this direction. I don't know if this is, how it's going to help us yet. I'm just looking into it. And if you're interested, I can put a link up to the site. I heard a talk with somebody who is doing this work, and he's actually a member of a time bank too.
Hey. So that just makes a lot of sense to me, and it fits so well into what I think a lot of us are experiencing in finding people that want to be passionate enough to actually take a little role right? So having those circles gives it just a more circular feel, a more community feel than maybe to the traditional ways. I'm so stubborn. I still think the traditional ways can work, but I guess I don't have any great success stories from that. But I like what you're saying. Does anybody want to respond to Eric or have a question about what had worked at one time and what might work for them in the future?
I can comment on that. We use the circle, we call it hubs. But we're still missing the champions that are really the glue that holds that hub together. So it's floundering a bit, but we embrace that because we do it based on the geo map that we get out of our software.
Yeah, thank you. Was that your phone, Robert?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. I didn't want to mute you because you were talking.
Mute me anytime.
No. No, hubs sound great too. And again, it comes back, in my mind, I think about all those meetings and wanting to just say, please, you go find your people. You can be the leader. Go do it. It's finding the champion to say, and honestly, I think because time banking is not quite there yet for like the ultra beautiful place to be, a lot of our leaders and change makers in our community have been already absorbed by another project or another passion. And I don't mean to sound like that we don't have other leaders among our time bank and we just haven't found them. So I don't want to say that, but I do think that even in my own succession plan, as I have left the leadership role at Kent Community Time Bank, we just looked around and we thought, well, who's around that's going to be that passionate about time banking? Like this room we're looking at that we're in, we are the most passionate people. Like we've got passionate time bank members, but they don't really want to lead a meeting. They don't want to organize a meeting. They don't want to organize an event. And we all know we're all here together because we say, well, we need to have some organization, however you want to look at it. If you want to be like me, kind of business, you could call it hierarchical, but it never felt that way, but it was kind of business. Or if you want to be really free flowing, it doesn't matter. We need to find the people that are going to help lead the other people. So whatever we would call it, it's leading other people. And like, here's the cream of the crop in this room right now. We've got the person who's saying, we're going to start a time bank, we're going to make it work. But now we need to find people who at least will feel half as passionate to at least meet every other month, right? And say, hey, we want to make our potlucks really special. I could never find a potluck team. I was the potluck team for 12 years. I literally felt like I was running a wedding once a month. It was exhausting. I'm really surprised I didn't burn out. I know a lot of people would say, what can I do to help when I get there? Okay, thank you. But we all know a potluck means get a theme, advertise it, to, what food, get excited about it, have something you do at the potluck. It's a small example. Anybody else? Okay, so I see Vilvi and then Alice would like to share. Let's go with Vilvi first.
I just wanted to agree with you. When I took over, there were just under 300 members in our bank, and it dropped down with the pandemic and everything to like 260, and I got it up. I think I'm at 325 now, and I just kept thinking that all I have to do is get to that magical threshold, find like one of the complaints is that, well, there's nobody available to fulfill my need, whoever's talking. And so I was thinking, well, I'll just need to get the right people on board, or the right, just people who have, like, I don't need one leader, I need 10 tiny little leaders. And I still haven't reached that magical threshold. I don't know what that would be.
Great question. Feeling very much the same, Bilby. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are nodding and saying, we're feeling that too. Alice, before I get to you, I just want to say that Carrie says they are also exploring shared leadership models and would love to connect with Eric and others on this topic, possibly sociocracy, right? We have found these models sometimes to be complex in themselves. I know Eric has studied it quite a bit, so he'd be a good person for you to connect with. And before Alice goes, she did put on there that she's sharing the workshops running on mutual aid organizations. Maybe you could talk about that, Alice.
Yeah, I put the link to the workshops because I don't think I could do a good job at summarizing, especially since we're right at the beginning of implementing those ideas. But I think particularly for those of us who have like no staff or one staff, it's just like some really practical experience using teams and kind of a decentralized approach to organizing. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to mention that I know has been helping our time bank, and as we're transitioning into trying to be a little bit more decentralized, is sort of recognizing that maybe not everyone is ready to be like in charge of the event yet, or they might need a lot of encouragement to do so. I know in our time bank we have a lot of not a lot, but we have quite a few young people in our time bank, and so a lot of what I've been doing is like mentorship type things, and just knowing that like it might take 3 times as long to plan the event because you're not doing it even though you have the most experience, but because you're like letting this other person take it over and they're like unsure, and you have to keep telling them like, no, like that sounds like a great idea, like we'll do. So I think part of it is like the letting go part of leadership and the mentorship part of leadership, which I'm saying this out loud in part because it's a pep talk to myself to remember to do these things. But I think, right, if we do want to have leader full time blanks and we want to be able to transition out or go on vacation or, you know, survive, even if we don't get that grant, then like we have to like have the patience to do that mentorship. And yeah, and maybe it means that like the flyers for the potluck don't go up that month because, you know, someone forgot to do it, but like just letting that be, and then just after the fact being like, huh, so like we didn't have as many people, what do we think we could change next time so that we have people? Should we make a checklist so that we make, you know, so that next time, you know, we make sure we do all the things. And so yeah, just want to like share that aspect of all of this. So like right now I'm on all of the teams, but the idea is that like I'm gonna slowly back out of the room on some of them, you know, to let other people take over.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. And I'm just going to call it hand holding because I don't know what else to call it. And it sounds to me like you have a lot of patience to do that. I literally didn't want to hand hold anyone. I'm like, you get it, go do it. Like I think you're way nicer than I am, but hand holding. Yeah. And then another thing, I don't know if you're feeling this, but it sort of sparked something in me, is that I think sometimes learning how to let go, which is what you said. I think sometimes as leaders, we can very easily slip into a little bit of a micromanagement role, and that just doesn't serve anybody. And you have to allow people, you're right, to have that mistake, to not put up that thing. So gosh, I just feel like we're adding another job to our leaderfulness, is to help bring other leaders in, but apparently we have the capacity to do that because we're here, and this time bank means that much to us, that we're willing to do that. Especially, you know, when you see Tina Maria, I'm like, yes, I want her in my time bank. I can tell she's like got a spark in her eye. So I do think we see that, but then maybe, you know, here's how it worked before and here's what we could have done better. So anybody else want to comment to what Alice said or Eric before her? This topic is so big. I mean,
Yeah, I'll butt in. I stuck my hand up, but or I thought I stuck my hand up. Maybe I need a Zoom class. I really like the idea of the circles and the small commitment. And I don't know if it was in the time bank coordinators call or somewhere else where I heard that people will step up for a position if they know that it's not like a 2-year thing. It's a task oriented, and what you do, what you get from that is that the people aren't stale. You know what I mean? It's like it keeps changing. So if they're just in for until that event is over with and it's about that task, then you have another leader when there's a new party or whatever, you know, a new task. And I like that because when I heard you personally say that you were doing 10 years, you know, you were going to be on the leadership of Kent Time Bank for 10 years, I went, oh, I'm only doing 5, you know, because 10 years was that big to me. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to have 10 years of my life. And I'm still giving, you know what I mean? I'm just not in the chair position. But I think in order to get away from the business, I was very businesslike. We were forced to be businesslike. I don't want to use the word forced. That's not the right word, but because of the grant. So we had to do things, you know, because of the grant and the goals of the grant, which made us more businesslike. But I wanted to also address something that Robert said about people not recording their hours. And something that I learned from Abby early on was we all know how much time we spend doing time bank stuff. So just put yourself on salary for that amount and record it once a month that you're doing X amount of hours. Now, since I'm no longer the chair, I don't salary myself. And I actually do every single exchange. I either do it in Time for All when I'm doing Time for All stuff, or I do it in Tampa Bay Time Bank when I'm doing Tampa stuff, or St. Pete Time Bank, but I log each one of them now. And our new secretary said, that's just like a lot of stuff to log. I said, so put yourself on salary. At least then it gets done and the historical data is there. Because without the historical data, what are we leaving for our predecessors? Nothing. We're leaving nothing for our predecessors. They'll be able to look at the data and they go back and they go, that never happened. And if it's not recorded, it never happened. So salary is a really good idea. And then the circles, and I think that was it. I don't know why we were successful. I mean, I was passionate and I know that garners a lot of like-minded people. But when I look at what happened in the last 5-6 years, it's like, it's not duplicatable because I don't know how it happened. I'm just not quite sure how it happened. And unless there's another Abby in Kent or another BJ in St. Pete, and that's not replicatable necessarily, you know? And so these smaller things like what Carrie's talking about, the little small tasks and having people do these things here. I have to give a shout out to Spring Hill, even though they're not here. They talked about in our fundraising, that they had a member that was getting things and selling them and giving half the money to the time bank. We got somebody to do that in our time bank. They loved the idea. We've got somebody to do it. And we got our first deposit from sales from that. So that stuff works. And I know Alice had a lot of good stuff too. So kudos for these calls and what they do for us. It's just great. Thanks.
yeah, thank you, BJ. My dogs just started barking. I might have to close the door. But I will say that if we're gonna put our salary in, it makes me think about when we ask our members to be in like a leadership role or in a circle, and then you say you need to record your hours. It's a big circle. It has to come back to, does your time bank have enough offers and requests for that leader person to be using those time credits, which is why I'm suggesting go into your time bank data, find your super users, they want those time credits. That's the alternative currency piece to time banking. And I do think if you can look through your recent stuff and say, hey, this person's been kind of active, they're using time credits for so many different things, could they possibly be a champion? I don't know. It's if everybody's able to do that with their data. I know we are, it's 5:14. So there's two things I want to do. And poor Samantha says, I'm done donating, I can talk. So I want to give her the last minute, but before we go over to her, one of the things going forward that I've been doing with these calls is because I feel like we share personally among this small group that I am sending an email just with all of our email contacts, usually with the notes, but we didn't take notes, but I'll send you the recording of the call. So if you would like to be on the email, please put your email in the chat. If your email is not on the chat, I'm not going to send you an email, and you'll be sad and you'll say, why didn't Abby send me an email after that nice call? Because I don't want to invade your email box. And some of you might not want an email. So yeah, usually I go through, okay, Tina Marie, good. Put them all on there. And then just in the last minute, I'm sorry, we might go over a minute. I just want to give Samantha a chance to talk because she's been giving blood. Hopefully she's not faint. Samantha, do you want to just tell us for a minute or two about your organizations?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Abby. And I get plasma twice a week. They pay me. They put my blood right back in. They just keep the white stuff. So hopefully I'm in a good area. You can hear me quick, but two things that you guys were talking about that I wanted to share with you. So just today, I have a member that's fairly active. She doesn't quite understand everything, but she's called me. We're going to do a one-on-one orientation to redo some of the info that she needed. And so I told her about some of the ways that we pay out time credits and how we can get organizations involved. So just little pieces like that. There was something else I was going to share about her, but I forgot. But she's just surprised at all the things that she's already doing that she can earn time credits for. So it's been a blessing to educate her, and I know she's going to be sharing that with other people. And a couple of you were talking about organizations. So I love talking to BJ. I always ask her questions, and she's like, yes, that's a good idea. Yes, you can do that. Nobody else is doing that, but so she's always imagining organizations now because so many people are having a hard time as an organization having a negative balance because they're giving out all the hours. So what I'm doing now is when an organization signs up and does orientation, I tell them, okay, I'm going to send you 100 hours. You see how quickly you can give those hours to your volunteers and to the people contributing to you. And then we'll reevaluate how many you need each quarter or each month. So I'm keeping them at a zero balance or a high balance, and then they slowly use that as they go.
Wow. Okay. I can't wait to hear if that is more inspiring than trying to teach people that, you know, negative is positive and all that. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing, Samantha, and thank you for giving plasma. It is 5:17. I want to be respectful of your time. We do not have a topic for May, so I am open. I know that was it Samantha who said financial? Yeah, I think insurance and financial stuff. You know, we could just all kind of share our books. Let me just see who's chatted here. Several. Okay, we've had challenges. Yes, I know super users can want to control things. Alice mentioned we can long term. I like the addition. Yes. I'm going to copy that chat. So thank you all. I want to let you go. I hope to see you in May. Bring other folks, bring a champion. Maybe that should be our homework. Bring a champion to the call. We'll talk them into doing a little project. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to stay on while I say goodbye. I'll send you an email if you've put your email in the chat. And what a great call. I really appreciate you, all of you. Thank you so much.
You want to stop the recording?
I will stop the recording now. Thank you. Stop recording.